Yep. When I watched Spider-Man Far From Home for the first time, I missed just about every single Easter egg there was. The Fantastic Four one, the Silver Surfer one, all the Easter eggs went right over my head. So I thought I'd make this video to break down all the biggest Easter eggs hidden in Spider-Man Far From Home, as well as go over the 2 end credit scenes and talk a little bit about how incredible this movie came out. Now, Spider-Man Far From Home might just be one of the best Marvel movies we've gotten to date. It's hard to compare it to a classic like the first Iron Man or the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, just because we've spent 10 years leading up to these, but Far From Home was such an all-around fun movie to watch, even if you haven't seen all the other MCU films, and it was just such a good follow-up to Avengers Endgame, as well as Spider-Man Homecoming, that it's definitely sitting in my top 5 for recent Marvel movies. I've also come across a few interesting things that I have some theories about, so make sure you watch until the end of the video, because we're going to be going over some juicy stuff. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you enjoy the video, and hang on to your butts because this video is going to be everything Spider-Man, and by the end of the video, you'll actually notice your fingers will be able to stick to the wall and you'll be able to shoot webs out of your butt like a spider. So,
hold on to your butts.
Oh, and spoilers, duh. But like I was saying, this movie was so innovative and did such a great job at adapting Mysterio to the MCU, I think it deserves major props alone for that. The first Mysterio illusion scene was one of the coolest shots I've seen since the green smoke fight on Kong Skull Island. This scene was straight out of a comic book, and to be honest, I didn't think they could deliver this character as well and as believable as they did. He was extremely cunning and devious while portraying such a trustworthy friend to Peter at the same time. But I didn't watch any trailers leading up to the film, so I barely even knew Mysterio was in the movie, and one of the few things I accidentally heard in an interview was Jake Gyllenhaal saying he fought bad guys alongside Spider-Man. So I thought that they were just going to use this character as a good guy to fight with Spider-Man against whatever bad guys that were going to be in the film, since Disney has been super kid-friendly recently. And after him and Spidey defeated the Fire Elemental, I thought the movie felt like it was ending, and it was super short, but it already felt like they were wrapping it up. I wasn't a fan of them making Mysterio a good guy because I grew up knowing him as the bad guy, and just assumed that's the direction Disney took his character. But because I thought that's what they did with this movie, I didn't see him being the bad guy until Peter suggested giving the glasses to Beck. It came out of nowhere to me, and it was a really good twist. I think the twist only came for me because I didn't watch the trailers and went into it knowing as little as possible. It's so cool because you go into the movie knowing so little about it that the surprises and turns and plot reveals are so much better because you're not expecting anything. But at the same time, I want to watch all the trailers and make theories and videos about them for YouTube, so it's tough to have both. The last time I did that was with The Incredibles, and up until that video, I avoided everything, but as soon as I started gathering clips and trailers, I figured out 70% of the story because they give so much away these days you can almost piece it together yourself. The movie was still great, but I enjoy it more when I go into it knowing less about it. I just need to find a good middle ground where I can still make videos on it. And a really cool detail I didn't notice until after I left the theater is Thanos' wish came true from Infinity War. When he's about to kill Iron Man, he says, "I hope they remember you." And throughout all of Far From Home, we're showed memorials and art dedicated to Tony Stark and the sacrifice he made, and I just thought that was really cool. But let's swing right into it because we've got some Easter eggs to find. Now, the first huge one is at the end, right before the credits start to roll. After Peter confronts Happy and May about their little fling going on throughout the whole movie, which was hilarious. I loved the faces Peter made when they were all in the same room. But again, it gets awkward and Peter dips to go meet MJ for their date, and we get some of the coolest shots of Spider-Man swinging through New York. He so effortlessly just rolls around the buildings and swings through the streets. It's such a beautiful scene to watch. I feel like it's been a while since we've got something that looked this good, but we see him jump off one building and soar through what used to be Stark Tower and then the Avengers Tower, and apparently it's been sold to someone new who we don't know who it is yet. But right after he goes through that and he starts to come down to the street level, we can see the Battle of New York memorial statue at Grand Central that was from the end fight from the first Avengers movie. But the big one that I missed is right after that. As soon as he comes down to say hi to MJ, if you look across the street, it looks like there's some construction going on and there's a temporary wall up. And on that wall, it says, "We're so excited to show you what comes next." Not only is this a head nod to Marvel revealing their new Phase 4 movies at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend, but also underneath the text, there is a 1, 2, 3, and a question mark where the 4 should be. This first off means that they'll be showing us what comes next, as in we've seen Phase 1, 2, and 3, and now 4 is what's coming next. But it's also an Easter egg in itself to one of the movies that will be in Phase 4. All of the numbers have colored circles around them which correspond to the members of the Fantastic Four. The 1 is red for Johnny Storm, 2 is orange for the Thing, 3 is blue for Mr. Fantastic, and the question mark where the 4 should be is a white circle with a question mark around it for Invisible Woman. Now, this is just flat out awesome. This is such a big Easter egg to put in this film, and it's so well hidden for being so obvious. I love when they do this in movies. I'm really interested in seeing how the Fantastic Four will be adapted to this universe though. As we're moving into the next phase, we're going to be moving towards exploring the multiverse much more and spending a lot more screen time in space and away from the earthly setting, and I think this is the perfect time to introduce the Fantastic Four into this universe. And I know Chris Evans just wrapped up his contract with Marvel to play Captain America, which is totally fine. I'm really happy they didn't kill him off. But can you imagine how funny it would be if he came back to play Johnny Storm again? I think it's really cool that the same actor played multiple characters in the same universe. At the very least, I hope they make use of that and put in some funny Easter eggs and head nods after they reboot the series to when Chris Evans played the Human Torch. I would love to see that. And I don't know if you caught it earlier in the movie, but when Happy called Nick Fury and was trying to deliver a coded message to him, he said Mr. Stark was going through his belongings and there was a surfboard that was left behind. Fury angrily says that it's not his and to never call him again and then hangs up. But could this be an Easter egg hinting at the Silver Surfer coming to the MCU? Last February, it was rumored that Brian Vaughn was working on the script because Marvel was in the process of getting the character rights to the Silver Surfer from Fox, but I think that was delayed and we haven't heard anything since. But I mean, with the Fantastic Four Easter egg, I feel like there's a great chance we might be seeing the Silver Boy on the big screen during Marvel's Phase 4. But into the first official end credit scene, the swinging around with MJ was perfect. I died laughing when I saw it. I wasn't expecting that at all. In the first two previous Spider-Man interpretations, MJ and Gwen were both super graceful and loved the ride, but I felt like this one was much more realistic of what would actually happen. If you were literally clinging onto another human being, which isn't the easiest to start off with, and then be violently swung through skyscrapers in New York, that would objectively be terrifying and not the least bit romantic. It's cool in theory, but we like the idea of it more than the actuality of it. If you're Spider-Man, you're good. You can get hit by a car and get right back up. But anyone else would be properly freaked out. And I feel like we don't realize how blessed we've been with Zendaya playing MJ and how fresh and realistic of a perspective she brings to the character. But moving on, as we got closer to the end of the film, I thought that Peter was going to pull a Tony Stark and tell the public he was Spider-Man, and apparently he was supposed to in an alternate ending, but they ended up not going with it. Mysterio comes on screen for all of New York to see and claims Spider-Man attacked him and he's the bad guy with a video his team edited for proof, and then he reveals Spider-Man's identity. I mean, my mind was actually blown when this happened, and I have no idea how this is going to play out. I think they did a great job ending the movie with Spider-Man winning and everything, but this makes us all go, what the heck is going to happen with the next movie? They did a great job of making us want more. Like, did Mysterio actually die? He's probably still alive. And now that literally everyone knows who Spider-Man is, Peter Parker can literally do nothing now. All of his classmates and teachers know, all of Aunt May's friends know, everyone walking around New York knows, and most important of all the villains know. This means in the next Spider-Man movie, as he's graduating high school, that basically resembles him graduating and moving on to the next step into the big leagues fighting all the villains that will be hunting him, his family, and his friends. It was cool in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that when his mask came off and he saved the train, all the passengers gave it back and kind of pledged to keep his identity a secret out of respect and thanks to him for saving their lives. But with this, literally everyone knows. I don't know how he's going to go about doing anything in the next movie without drawing attention or being attacked by some baddie. I think last time his identity was revealed in the comics, Aunt May was quickly found and killed, and Peter had to make a deal with Mephisto that erased his marriage and entire relationship to MJ so he could get his aunt back. So yeah, that worked out well. Hopefully it won't go that bad in the next film. I would really hate to see someone close to Peter die, like Ned or something. Oh gosh, please don't let Ned die. But another huge reveal we got in that scene is that J.K. Simmons will be reprising his role as J. Jonah Jameson in the future Spider-Man movies. This is one of the coolest reveals this movie had. No one saw this coming, but it's what everyone didn't know they wanted. See, this is a great movie. Disney is doing great with Marvel. I don't know why they won't listen to the fans with Star Wars. But like I was saying, I'm so happy he'll be back as JJJ, and it looks like he's running the dailybugle.net, which is just a more modernized, believable interpretation of the Daily Bugle from the comics. I can't wait to see more. Now, the next post-credit scene was incredible. We find out that Talos and Soren from Captain Marvel were pretending to be Nick Fury and Maria Hill all movie. This explains so many things. Throughout the entire movie, you can tell they're acting slightly off, and they say a few weird things every now and then, like Fury says Mysterio is from your Earth when talking to Peter instead of saying our Earth, and his strong reaction to being asked where Captain Marvel was caught me off guard too, and the fact alone that Fury was so trustworthy of Mysterio right off the bat and never questioned him really threw me off. But then we get the reveal and it wasn't him and we're like, oh, that makes sense. But for us to be able to notice that something seemed ever so slightly off with the two says a lot for their incredible acting. They weren't playing Fury and Hill, but they were playing characters pretending to be who the actors normally play and their interpretation of them, which is confusing to think about, let alone act out. This reminds me of one of the most incredible voice acting scenes we've gotten in a movie recently. There was a scene in Despicable Me where Steve Carell was playing two different characters that were twins as they were talking to each other while they were both pretending to be the other. Everything down to how each character thought the other talked and different mannerisms of how they talked. I mean, it just blows my mind each time I watch it. Such incredible, over-the-top voice acting. I don't think Steve Carell gets enough credit for how talented he is. But when they did this in Spider-Man, it lets you literally go rewatch the entire movie differently than how you saw it the first time. Creatively, I think this is a super underappreciated technique as it was done for comedy, but it also adds so much more value and depth to the movie. And it also introduces us to that ginormous sword ship floating in space that Fury is currently on. It's basically the intergalactic version of S.H.I.E.L.D. that monitors much bigger threats than the ones we've seen in the past, which hints at opening up the cosmic universe for Marvel's Phase 4 and introducing movies like Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, and the Eternals. Which I just made a video about Keanu Reeves being cast for the main role in that. You should definitely go check it out. But overall, I love this movie and can't wait to go see it again. The comedic elements were great. The teachers were hilarious. I was hoping they'd utilize the teacher from The Sitter a little bit better or have his personality be a little crazier like he's good at, but they were still great. Seeing everyone return from the blip was hilarious, and I hope they show us a little bit more in some future movies. There's so much you can do with that. But thank you for watching the video. Subscribe if you enjoyed it, and tell me what your thoughts are for the future of these movies down in the comments. I want to hear what you guys are thinking right now. And actually, right now, as this video just posted, I'm actually in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on a cruise with my family for a little much needed vacation. I will be back Saturday morning and should be able to make another video for next week. I am a little sad I missed Comic-Con, but I can't wait to catch up on everything once I get back. But until then, I will see you in the comments when I get back. Peace.
Hold on to your butts.